everyone, Luke here. Now, I know it's been quite a little bit of a while since I've done my last Doctor Stone video. It's been 2 weeks, but I do have a reason for it. After reading chapter... which chapter was it? Chapter... 197, I felt like, is there really anything I can really talk about with this chapter? And I decided, no, there isn't really. I wouldn't be able to get like a 20-minute video or 15 video out of it. It would have just been simping by. So I thought, you know what? I'll wait until chapter 188 comes out, and it was a good job that I did, because 188, even though that's just like more of an action-packed chapter itself, just the impact in that chapter is something, yeah. So let's just dive into these chapters, because something happens to one of these characters here. I can't imagine why I'm circling my finger around Kohaku here. Alright, so these will be chapters 187 and 188. So we'll start off with 187 titled Cyber Guerrilla, which is spelled in the same way as guerrilla warfare. And there is something relevant to the time of this chapter, which we'll get into when we get into it. But anyway, the chapter starts off with Senku going, "It's the final battle against Stanley. Knowing the enemy's location is the key, and we have the edge." You have the edge now, Senku, but you won't have it for long. But anyway, Gen goes on to say, we have to really be careful right now. Suika and the others have been captured, and we know the enemy's general vicinity. Considering these two facts, a certain brave and valiant hero is guaranteed to run off and attack one who must be restrained before it's too late. And sure enough, we all know who he's talking about here. We see Kohaku just speeding off as Gen goes, "I knew it!" But Senku seems a little bit more like, "Ugh, I knew this was gonna happen." She's always doing this. And yes, she is always doing this, just running off to save her friends without having any strategy in place or having any guarantee of whether she'll make it back alive. And that's going to come back to bite her in the arse. Ryusui states that it's risky, but it's the best course of action at this point, and he questions if he's wrong. And is it the best course of action? I mean, you have all the team here, but I don't know if it was the best course of action. I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. Was this the best course of action for Kohaku to do? I mean, yes, it's in character for her to do this, but is it the best course of action? But anyway, I'm gonna go with Senku as well here by saying it's the path to victory is simple. Activate the petrification device before the enemy shows up. Now, keep that in mind, because that is going to be really important later. That line, the activate a petrification device before the enemy gets here. So we got to keep that that in mind to when we get to chapter 188. But anyway, Senku continues and says, so a little guerrilla warfare is the only way to slow Stanley's gang down and buy us time. Yeah, we've got to keep this line from Senku in mind, because I think a lot of people forgot about this line when they read chapter 188, myself included. I forgot about this line. I'm only looking at it right now like, oh, this might actually play a part in the outcome of what happened at the end of chapter 188, and we'll get into it when we get into it. But anyway, continuing on, we see we come back to Stanley's group as we see Suika still going. It's scary how good Stanley's people are. Our footprints are even that deep as she's seeing Stanley's gang examining footprints that were left behind by her and Francois when they were on their scouting mission. Now, with Suika, based on what happens in chapter 188, yeah, it's gonna be something I'm gonna be talking about. As Kohaku finds the gang, she says, since she knows the general area and the route the enemy's taking, her eyesight will make it a cinch to find them. Oh no, she hasn't found them, but I think she has found them at this point. No, she hasn't. Yeah, oh yeah, she has found them because on the next page she says she's found them. She goes on to say, right now the soldiers in front is checking for wire traps. Just behind them, their leader is keeping watch in front and overhead. Their common man is guarding their flank, and another is monitoring the rear, and not a single member is out of place, and they're moving while maintaining secret GPS between them. They don't have a single opening to exploit. Now, I love this from Kohaku because it's showing the fact that she mentioned GPS, something that back in the Kingdom of Science arc, she had absolutely no scientific knowledge herself. I mean, she had knowledge of like the geography of the area, but scientific knowledge not whatsoever. The fact that she's mentioning GPS again shows the advancements in her capacity have come a long way since starting up the Kingdom of Science, and also the fact that she's actually strategizing at this point. This is something that back at the beginning of the series Kaku would never do. This I don't know if people notice this. This is something Kaku never does, strategize. She's more like, I'm just gonna go in there and attack the enemy right away. Like literally, as soon as she saw Tsukasa, the first instinct she was attack him. This was back when they were enemies, obviously, but the fact that she's sitting there and strategizing again, subtle development of her character, but something that's welcome nonetheless. As Kaku continues to debate to herself what's actually going on here, we see Tsukasa and Yoga appear behind her, and Tsukasa mentions, yeah, we're facing combat professionals from the 21st century. When you run half cocked, I thought your brain had turned too much, but the fact that you're gouging the enemy's capability and not diving into battle tells me more about your keeping your wits about you. And I love Hyoga saying that because Hyoga and Kaku have had this some sort of rivalry with each other since meeting each other, and Kaku is actually kind of swayed Hyoga's perception on science and on the Kingdom of Science, and this was evident when Hyoga was the one to actually save Kaku and Suika from falling into that ravine when they were crossing over the Andes to get to the Amazon rainforest. And also I just love the fact that it's these three, the three strongest members of the Kingdom of Science at this point, working together as a mother flipping team to rescue people. So shows again not just development on Kaku's part, but also development on Hyoga and Tsukasa's part as well. And I just love that about it, like when enemies can actually come together against a common adversary and work together to sort something out. Tsukasa mentions that training has prepared them for any combat scenario. In a head-to-head battle, we'd have no hope of victory. Keep that line in mind as well. But anyway, Hyoga goes on to say they've come prepared for this, and it was a trap designed by Chrome himself, a remote control record player, again showing just how amazing Chrome is in the world. The fact that he was the one to actually design that and not Senku, they're really pushing that Chrome is gonna surpass Senku one day. As we cut to a flashback where we see Chrome and Yukio designing this record player, as they go on to make a banging sound and actually record that banging sound. Yukio goes on to say the sound's pretty weak for a gunshot, and Chrome is confused by this because he thought that they recorded the real thing, because we see Ryusui actually firing off the gun in one panel. Yukio goes on to say sometimes the genuine article isn't the best option when it comes to sound. For instance, when making sound effects for movies, instead of using real waves at sea, they might record sound swirling around in a pan. Sand swishing around in a pan, which Yeah, that does actually make sense, because speaking as an actor myself, that happens a lot. Like, the sound of, like, perfect example is, the sound of Godzilla's roar, the that he makes. Yeah, that's not the sound of any of like a T. That's not like a T-Rex sound slowed down or anything like that. You want to know what that sound is? It's the sound of it's the sound of a leather glove rubbing against a string instrument and slowed down. Yeah, that is the sound of God. That is how to make Godzilla's sound. Godzilla's roar. Apparently, this is according to James Rowe from Cinemassacre, and since he's a Godzilla nut, I'll take it. I'll take his word on it. But yeah, pretty impressive that it's not the genuine arc of a T-Rex roar, it's the sound of a leather glove being rubbed against a string instrument. And another example as well is, if anyone's seen Doctor Who and they know when the TARDIS materialises or dematerialises, it does that. That is keys rubbed against the string instrument slowed down. Yeah, pretty impressive what string instruments can do in this day and age. Continuing on, as Senku mentions that they should be smacking the plastic container against like wood or something. That's the thing that actually works, and the sound and recording the sound the plastic makes, then slow down the playback speed, and it gets it looking like the real deal, like I mentioned with those items being rubbed against the string instruments and being slowed down. And Yukio says, for the final touch, we'll layer the sound on top of each other, and this gets a general banging sound as Ginryu and Matsukaze are freaking out, going, ambushed! Who's shooting at us? We're your allies, remember? And then we get Stanley's group just getting absolutely confused here, before Maya, in a general instinct, takes up to find out exactly where that sound is actually coming from, and Kuroko states, while those at the front are taking cover, the other unit is sipping to the side. Did they spot them? And Tsukasa goes, no, they're pros, so they probably deduced that it's fake gunfire, but they're not so naive to not believe that we pose them no threat at all, so they're responding with an ambush technique. Okay, so I like this, the fact that Stanley's team is actually smart enough to deduce, like, okay, this is obviously fake gunfire, but somebody is going to attack us, so we can't underestimate our enemy as much as we would like to. So we've got to take extra precaution throughout this whole ordeal. As Kaku's getting ready to rescue Suika and the others, Tsukasa informs them that there'll still be a challenge since Stanley is nearby, and there'll be a chaotic battle which could result in dead hostages. Not dead hostages, but something else, Tsukasa. And Hyoga says that they need to destroy the enemy's transmitter, and it may be a possibility that if a battle breaks out, our golden opportunity. That may be possible if a battle does break out, and it'll be their golden opportunity if they will. Karaku reiterates and says, right, even I've learned that much. Communication is the key to modern warfare. And again, I love that she brought that up because again, at the beginning of the series, she had no idea about all this modern terminology, and the fact that even she is learning some stuff from science, again shows the development of I wouldn't say Karaku is stupid, but not the brightest on the level of Senku and Chrome, and I want to say Gen is a little bit more intelligent than Karaku. Just not on their level, but the fact that even she's learning that much again shows the development of these people, and the development of Suika as well, because the fact that she was able to aid Charlotte and help her out with medicine again shows how she's developed as a character as well. But I'm gonna leave Suika's further development till we get to talking about next chapter. But anyway. Hyoga goes on to say, if we cut off their communication while maintaining our own, then we've won. Then we've won this. Then we've won this war. As Kaku's like, how is that even? How is that even possible? And Hyoga says, oh, please think about it for a moment. Why not just hold a blade to Sinu's throat and demand that Stanley surrenders? Why exactly haven't we considered that our obvious card? And of course, the obvious reason why is because they have people in Corn City that could easily be killed if they actually kill Sinu. So yeah, that's the obvious reason why they haven't actually attacked Sinu, because Stanley could issue the order of oh, they've attacked our leader. Okay, we're going to attack your people back in Corn City. We have no business with people who attack our leader. Sorry about that. Google thought I was talking to it. Anyway, Clark goes on to say, right, so if we do anything to Sinu, they wouldn't think twice about contacting their people in Corn City and telling them to retaliate. Exactly. Once they've lost their line of communication, the hostages on their side are effectively useless. And yeah, if they're effectively useless, be prepared. But anyway, Hyoga goes on to say, then we can take our sweet time slicing off Sinu's fingers and toes and appendages one at a time until Stanley's team agrees to surrender, as we get not just Kohaku looking like, really man, but also Tsukasa. Like, look at that face from Tsukasa. Like, he's just like, bro, don't you think that's a bit extreme? Anyway, and Kawaka brings up the obvious point. Wait, that still wouldn't work since they have Suiko and the other three hostages. All our lives hang, but Hyoga reiterates, all our lives hang in the balance. If Forsaking 4 could bring about victory, then it's an option that we must consider. And I'm like, Hyoga, Suika is like 11 years old. Can you just tone down the? We're just gonna slice the Kenpachi references here. We're just gonna slice everything up, and. I'm sorry for laughing, because it is awful on Hyoga's part to say something like that. But anyway, Kaka goes on to say, like we'd ever go along with that plan. And yeah, that's the appropriate response. But Tsukasa goes on to say, whether or not we'd go with that option, it still remains on the table. Think of it from Stanley's perspective. If his transmitter was destroyed, his team would have no choice but to drop everything to repair it, and it would cause a slight delay. And Kuroku goes on to say, yeah, if that's a general plan, then I'm on board here. Okay, so they have a plan in motion, but whether or not it will go well, that remains to be seen in a few minutes' time when we get to chapter 188. As Stanley's crew are venturing through the forest, one of his teammates goes, "What's wrong, Maya?" And that's probably the first time we've heard Maya's name in the actual story itself. I can't remember if it was mentioned beforehand, but I know it's mentioned in the volumes, in like the character information, who these people are. But if that's the first time we've heard Maya's name, please let me know. But yeah, we finally got her name mentioned in the series. But anyway, Maya goes on to say her instincts as the all-American woman's deficient MMA champ are telling me something, which that's interesting considering how they know of Tsukasa being the strongest primate, and that will come into play late in the next chapter. And anyway, so, Maya spots Tsukasa, Hyoga, and Kroku, and does "found you" and does that face. Now, I can't imagine who that reminds me of. Oh, hey, Crone. So yeah, pretty obvious that was something that would come out of Promised Neverland with Crone's face. But anyway, as she spots them, we see guns pointing blazing, and Maya getting ready for a battle. As they go on to say, as Hyoga goes on to say, well, our deaths are now assured. Yet, well, our deaths are now assured. Yet, ... So, yeah, be prepared. Be prepared for some heartbreak for all you Hyoga fans. Tsukasa goes on to say, right, I'm not one to be shot down without a fight, and they go on to say, before we die, we have to destroy their transmitter. As Kohaku says, I never imagined the three of us would march together. It would march into battle together, and yeah, this is a big moment for them characters, people that were once enemies joining together to fight a common cause. As we get Tsukasa and Hyoga's thick ribs. Something for the ladies here, not just for the men. Something for the ladies. Enjoy those ribs while you can, ladies. But anyway, the chapter ends with them charging into battle to face Maya and her entourage. Sorry about that. Anyway, like I said, not much to say about the chapter. It's more tactical and getting ready for the battle. Now, the next chapter. Let's just dive right into it. Okay, I've been mentally preparing myself for this moment. This will be chapter 188, titled What I Once Sought to Destroy. Keep that in mind. But anyway, the chapter begins right from when the last chapter left off, when they're charging at Stanley's armed soldiers, and their deaths at this point are pretty much guaranteed. So even if we have to destroy the heart of the enemy, which is their transceiver, we have to lead Senku and everyone to victory. Now, keep that in mind, because even though they're actually saying like, okay, this is probably our final battle, we've got to keep in mind some things that are actually said at the end of the chapter from Tsukasa. But anyway, they charge into battle with Tsukasa and Kohaku slicing up the guns, and Hyoga using his kumiguri style spear technique, the spinning thing that he does to actually block someone that was actually shooting at him. So the gun's actually going kind of like what happened in the Simpsons episode, The Secret Wars of Lisa Simpson, when Lisa was trying to fire a AK-47, and it was just going out of control. It's kind of like what's happening here. And as we see one of the guns fire and hit a tree, we get some more strategy-based moments from Kohaku going, my body feels warm. Revealing one's back to the enemy, even for an instant, means death. So normally during battle, my back would remain cold, even to the point of freezing. But now, for the first time ever, in my final battle, things are different. Yeah, you're in the heat of battle, Kohaku. But anyway, we get this quite somber moment from Kohaku herself, as she's looking sweating and out of breath, but also smiling as well. So maybe now I've got my own predictions about what's going to happen, but maybe she's kind of resigning herself to die at this point for the sake of Senku and the Kingdom of Science. Which, if that's the case, that would be a bold move on Boichi and Inagaki's part to kill off the main female lead of your series. That would be a bold move for them to do, but will Shonen Jump let them do that? That remains to be seen, but we'll get into that when we get into the end of the chapter. But anyway, Maya continues her attack as she forces the tree that was attacked by the machine gun to crash on top of Kohaku. But of course, at the last minute, Tsukasa uses his Thanos Buster Blade sword to block the tree. Now, this is interesting here from Tsukasa, because if you remember back in the series when he first met Kohaku, and they were having the little sparring match. I apologise for the rumbling upstairs. There were people walking around, but anyway, they were having that sparring match, and actually Tsukasa was the one who was trying to crush Kohaku with a tree, and the fact that now he's saving her from being crushed by a tree again shows how Tsukasa's perspective on the Kingdom of Science has shifted. But of course. This leads into quite possibly one of the more tragic moments of this chapter, as Stanley's forces are saying, that's Tsukasa, history's strongest primate high schooler, the MMA champ from Japan. And if you remember, Maya is the women's MMA champ from America. So this is a perfect opportunity for her to go all out and kill the world's strongest primate, because then she'll be the world's strongest primate. She'll probably have the world's strongest primate high schooler title, or something, if she was able to defeat Tsukasa. But of course, Tsukasa, even though he gives her credit for no one pushing him as much as Mara's pushing him in this battle, it's still not enough to break Tsukasa, as he gets his one punch over Maya and just completely knocks her out as his forces go. He beat Maya, he's a monster. But of course, even though Tsukasa is a monster and really strong, Tekken actually brought this up. Tekken half predicted this, because he said, yes, Tsukasa is strong enough to punch out two lions, but I doubt he could take a gunshot to the gullet. And sure enough, Tsukasa takes a gunshot to the gullet. Now he takes it in his stomach. That's where it's confirmed. Where I apologise. Where it's actually, if you go on the Wiki page, that's where people have actually saying, like, okay, this is where Tsukasa was actually shot. In his stomach, so maybe he could survive this if they're really careful. And this harkens back to what Senku said at the beginning of chapter 187, where he said activate a petrification device before the enemy shows up. That's gonna I'm bringing that back into the fray here. To say that maybe they'll get a message from Francois, like a radio, like what Senior was doing with his like metal claw, like his magnetized metal claw, and they'll probably say petrify a whole different radius. For a whole different radius to save Tsukasa, Kohaku, and Hyoga. Now Hyoga, I'm kind of in debate about, but we'll just have to wait and see. As Stanley's forces say, up against guns made with science, it doesn't matter how strong you are, chump. And this triggers a flashback in Tsukasa's mind, as he first flashes back to a scene that was relatively adapted recently in the anime, where he has Hyoga hanging Chrome over the edge of that waterfall, and he goes, "Progress must be halted. The rules of the old world had vast interest in using weapons of science to commit vile acts that." Not that you know of that, and you get just like this somber look from Tsukasa, probably thinking like, I was right. I knew this was gonna happen. I knew it was inevitable. This was probably gonna happen, and hopefully, if Chrome actually does find out about this, it might change his perspective at some point. Maybe that's probably what's going through Tsukasa's mind before he eventually passes out from the gunshot wounds. Before Kaku can actually react, though, we have Stanley pointing his machine gun at her. Oh yeah, I wondered where he left that. But before Stanley can actually attack, we see Hyoga just get in the way of Kaku and protect her from the multiple gunshots that actually fire him. Now, what I was saying about Hyoga, I honestly don't think he's going to survive this. I think Hyoga is a goner here, because he's getting shot by a machine gun, which is very different from the sniper shot that Tsukasa got shot at. But he's getting shot by a machine gun. So yeah, I doubt Hyoga is going to survive this. But if he does die here, that's brilliant. Saving the one person that he was a bit skeptical at first and sort of had a rivalry with, but as they got to know each other better, he got to understand what her philosophy is, and he's actually the one saving her now. So that's brilliant on his part. If that's how his character ends, that would be brilliant. Hyoga, in his last words quotation, says, "Really, Kaku, why are you standing around gawking at me when you have a job to do?" As we see Kaku just go ahead and destroy the transmitter device, and Stanley says, "That's what you were after all." And Kaku, with a tear in her eye, says, "Yes." As Stanley says, "Not bad," before ending up shooting her twice, because we have the blam blam. So Kawako was shot twice, and we see a tear in her eye, so maybe she's resigned herself to die at this point. But we cut back to nighttime, or it could be the next day for all we know, as we see Tsukasa finally regain consciousness, and he says they finished their job. I expected nothing less from those two. So Hyoga has met his end. So I think that's pretty much confirming at this point that Hyoga is dead. Is pretty much dead. So rest in peace, Hyoga. People may have not liked you, but you finally got the redemption. You finally got your redemption in the end by sacrificing yourself to save Kohaku to give her time to destroy the transmitter. Tsukasa goes on to say that him and Kohaku don't have long either. Now this gives me hope that these two will actually survive. Hyoga, not entirely sure on, but all of this, going back to what happened with, going back to what I was saying with Suika, some people were actually saying like Suika has actually seen all of this, so she's actually seen Tsukasa, Hyoga, and Kohaku being shot, and this might actually lead into what I was saying about her development, how she might be how it might damage her self-esteem and make her not want to actually go out on these dangerous missions anymore whilst continuing on the journey. She might want to stay back for a while, so whether that will happen or not, that remains to be seen. Tsukasa says that if Senku and the Senku and the rest manage to recreate a working Medusa, can the healing effects of the revival process even resurrect the dead? As he thinks back to the part where he was technically killed and put in the freezer, and his sister was saved from her comatose state. Perhaps all that matters is their target circular system is preserved. Now we don't know exactly what that meaning is. What that actually means from Tsukasa, but if that's the case, like the circular system, like basically, I feel like as long as your heart, as long as you haven't been shot in your heart, I feel as long as you haven't been shot in your heart and you haven't been shot in your brain, I feel like the heart and the brain, the brain and the heart are the two circular structures that he is referring to here, and also as long as you're still breathing as well, and you haven't died or passed out from a lack of blood loss. I feel like that's the thing that he's referring to with the circular system being intact. Now, let's just go on Discord for a second, because we're having quite a few discussions on Discord about this. Let's go to Dr. Stone. Here we go. So this is coming from Party Jams as well, and there's some other things that I've forgotten to mention in the at the beginning of the video, which I forgot to mention. Let's see. Yeah, this is what he says, which begs the question of what intact actually means. Raijin mortars can occur within hours, and HyperX even sooner. So he reckons, basically what we were discussing is like all comes down to like if they actually stop breathing, so they have to keep breathing, and I feel like the heart and the brain have to still be active in order for the Medusa to actually work. Tsukasa smiles to himself and looks up at the sky and says, when did it happen? I wonder. At the very moment did I decide to entrust my fate to the science of Senku's kingdom. And he's looking up at the stars. So okay, so yeah, it is at night time. What I once sought to destroy has become a shining star of hope. Now, this double page spread from Boichi and Inagaki is possibly referencing when Byakuya died in the water on Treasure Island back in the past, and he was thinking about Senku. Tsukasa is thinking about Senku here, so maybe this is a sign that Tsukasa doesn't have long, might actually die, and it's probably just Kohaku that they can only save. But anyway, as Tsukasa is bleeding internally, he says, "I leave the rest to you, Senku," and that's where the chapter ends. So, action-packed chapters with a shocking ending at chapter 188. Now, do I reckon that they are going to survive? not all of them. Like I said, Hyoga is dead, but whether Tsukasa and Kaku survive, that remains to be seen, and it's up to interpretation. I mean, Sid, the one that I've been doing the tier lists with, he reckons that they're not all going to die, they're all going to survive, because we've had too many death fake outs at this point. And yeah, we have had a few death fake outs, and some people are saying like they don't want this dark turn, like when the cast are actually dying, which is something that I said to, which is something that I responded to on Twitter by saying like, no, we have to have this sense of tension, and Stanley himself has become a legitimately viable threat at this point, like being able to take down so many members of the Kingdom of Science just by himself, including the main character, bringing him out of commission for a while in the last arc. So that remains to be seen. But also, before I go, I want to give a shout out to if I can find it. I'll go on Twitter. It's someone that I want to find. Come on. Here we go. Shonen Ouji, who in one of his more recent videos actually shouted me out, gave a thank because I gave my comment on what my favourite filler scene from Doctor Stone season 2 was on his Doctor Stone season 2 filler video. So big shout outs to him. Go and subscribe to him. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. And also as well, something else. Happy 4th anniversary, Doctor Stone. Been around for 4 years at this point, and we're getting a popularity poll, so we'll wait and see which characters are going to be at the top at this point. You already know who my favourite characters are, so yep. If I was gonna take part in this popularity poll, I'll go Suika, Chrome, and Seiko as my three favourite characters. But anyway, guys, let me know if you think Tsukasa, Hyoga and Kaku are going to survive here, or if all of them are going to die, or if just some of them are going to survive. Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lush Luke signing off. Later, guys.